Dream 248, Jesus, the Deer and the Cliffs finished on Sunday, June 11, 2017. Friday, June 9, 2017, a rainy spring day. Communion. Dear Father, thank you for another day here. Thank you for all that we have. Thank you for my family and friends. Summer is in the air. Yesterday was extremely hot, but today is a beautiful cool spring day. Father, I avoided you yesterday and today I am feeling so sorry that I did. While helping my daughter with her outfit for a Christian youth group gathering 2 days ago, I discovered something on her skin. I promptly called her doctor and emailed him a photo of what I had found. After their office looked at the photo, they promptly set up an appointment for her to see the doctor, but also scheduled a biopsy at the same time for 2 days later. The picture must have been serious enough to have both appointments arranged immediately, as there is usually a wait involved. However, their urgency just made me more worried. Father, what can I say? I have kept it together, but clearly I did not see this coming. This is the time of year when kids are usually enjoying the outdoors, spending time with friends, laughing and creating lasting memories. What now though? This made me start wondering if I should have done things differently. Have I done everything that I possibly could? Father, I feel like I have been robbed of my chance to be a normal parent because of all of the years spent fighting just to keep my children. I then lost even more of my life when I later became sick and injured. Now, I know that you make no promises for an easy life here, and I realize this, but my daughter has always been my normal healthy child. Since my boys are firmly on the autism spectrum, I have come to depend on her being my one normal child. Well, Father, you know everything and you sometimes even change the way we think normal should be. As a parent, I have had to surrender all of this to you as, clearly, I am unable, on my own strength, to do anything about any of this apart from you. Even though I know this, or I at least should know this by now, I was still too angry to meet with you yesterday. I felt tripped off. Here you are, my Father and God of all creation, you have control of all things, and yet you still allow things like death, disease, autism, cancer and the murder of innocent people, children included. I then found myself rather distracted for most of the day as I had to speak with several medical professionals. While I was met with a roadblock at one point, I quickly removed it by simply saying, if this were me, I could wait, I really could. However, this is my child, not an adult. What if this were your child? Well, thanks to pulling on some heartstrings, we were then scheduled immediately. However, even after this, I continued to avoid meeting with you by rage cleaning. Instead of listening for you, I instead put on the television while I organized. As I listened to the former FBI Director Comey testify in the background, I was convicted several times by texts I received from my daughter at school. What has God said, Mom? My return texts, I still have not gone to him yet. I am so sorry, Father, as I should have gone to you even before phoning various healthcare professionals. While I know that being proactive is wise, it was still foolish for me to do this without coming to you for guidance first. I already even know that these urgent visits with you are usually brief, so time was not really the issue here. I soon broke the news to my other children about what was happening. Later, when I picked my daughter up from school, I watched as she approached the car. Despite all of this, she still had a huge smile on her face under that long curly hair of hers. My middle son later surprised me when he pulled me aside to tell me that he was praying for her. He then said, Mom, do you think God is allowing all of this to bring us closer to Him just before we are healed? While I was absolutely stunned by his question, I was even more stunned by the rest of my conversation with him. Here I was, so preoccupied about the worst possible scenarios, that I failed to notice that my most difficult child was now standing here talking to me about prayer and healing. My son had been at a youth group retreat around 2 weekends ago or so, and the youth pastor had reached out to the group. While my son had told me that this had affected him and that he had felt God ask him to follow him closer, this was the first time I had seen it in action. I was just too absorbed to notice his change until now. After he walked away, I looked up to you and said, "Father, thank you, thank you, thank you." My son then later said to me, "Mom, perhaps God will let me be the one to heal her?" What? Seriously, what? What did I just hear? I hugged him and agreed for the miracle. Oh Father, thank you for the miracle of my son's new compassion. Father, you truly work all things together for your glory. You know fully that it is better for us to be redeemed to you than it is for us to be glorified ourselves, so thank you. Through our troubles, we must still run to you. I am so sorry, as I should truly know this by now, and that you truly love us. However, even with this in mind, I am still struggling. Father, you have promised me that no real physical harm would come to our children. You promised that all of our children would be raptured together with me and my husband. As a result, I had just hoped that I would be the only one in our household that would have to experience physical trouble. Please, Father, do not forget about us. I want so much to be spending our remaining spare time focusing on your glory and not on our troubles. Please, Father, do not forget about us down here. Please do not let us suffer even more. Please do not allow a blow like this to be delivered. Please, Father, please. To distract myself some more, I later found a letter tucked away in one of my old journals from 2008. 2008 was one of the most difficult years of my life. The letter related to an assignment my daughter had to do for one of her classes. In this assignment, a parent for each student was to write a special letter about their child for their class. While I might have shared this letter with my daughter a few years back, I do not think she would still remember it. As such, I will make sure to show her this later today just in case. Here is the letter as written on October 22, 2008, when I found out that I was pregnant with my daughter. It was such a wonderful surprise. Even when I became quite sick after she was born, she was still my delight. No matter what the situation was, she always smiled. She never cried. She loves to laugh, dance, sing and now read ! She doesn't like TV that much and would much rather help cook in the kitchen. While sometimes her room gets messy, and her feet can be stinky too, she gives our home special joy. Even if we had no power or heat, her smile would light up the house and her hugs would keep us warm. Father, I know that there are no accidents to your timing, so, in light of all of this, please tell me what the dream I had last night means. Dream 1 description begins. My family and I were trying to make our way back home after a trip. We were all extremely healthy, but I was a bit confused about this as both my husband and I looked the same age as we are now, yet we somehow felt as if we were young parents again. We were just south of a major city and a large river had overflowed and was dividing the land. All of the roads were now backed up due to the heavy traffic from people preparing for and sheltering from the coming storm. At first, this did not make any sense as it was a beautiful clear blue sky. Suddenly a cloud came over the horizon. Soon after, and in just a matter of minutes, several more clouds gathered and we were soon surrounded by black clouds. To make matters worse, the clouds above us were now moving in a circular motion. However, the black clouds' movement suddenly stopped and the sky stood still. We took advantage of this by deciding that staying on the main road was no longer a good idea and took our nearest exit. We drove up to an old white Victorian house on top of a very steep hill. We noticed that there were stairs that led up to the house. My husband, I think I recognize this unusual house as being owned by someone I work with. We should go up there and see if we can shelter with them. After parking, all of us ascended the very steep stairs up to their front porch. When we reached a higher elevation, we looked down and saw that the traffic had now stopped in all directions as if they were waiting for the storm to arrive. We were glad that we were no longer on the main road even though the house seemed vulnerable to the storm. When we finally climbed to the top stair, a woman was already there standing at the door of the house to greet us. This woman was so beautiful that my entire family became somewhat captivated by her beauty. However, what was really odd was that the sun was still shining inside her house and we could see blue skies from her windows. When I stepped back onto her porch again to investigate, I noticed that the black clouds were still above us and all around us. Woman, smiling. Well, hello. You work with my husband, right? My husband, why, yes I do. Is he home right now? Woman, no, he has not made it back through the traffic yet. However, he told me that he would be home soon. Anyway, we were both expecting you, so please come on in and make yourselves at home. I just made some cookies, so please have some. The kids were hungry and did not have to be asked twice. However, I was still confused as to why she would have been expecting us. As I looked at her, I became a bit leery and started to see things about her that nobody else in my family seemed to be seeing. At certain times, she seemed like she was quite young, perhaps around 30 or so, but, at other times, and depending on the angle, I noticed that she would look around 60 or so instead. These odd glimmers or glimpses seemed to be telling me that she was actually much older than she appeared. I was confused as even my husband did not seem to see these glimpses of her changing appearance. I decided to look around a bit more and came across some photos of her and her husband. Sure enough, both of them were actually very old. The woman looked over at me and seemed to notice that I was looking at her quite closely. This probably seemed like odd behavior to her and she decided to approach me. She had a look in her eyes that made me feel uncomfortable. However, I still wanted to remain polite since her husband worked with my husband. Woman, so, are you not hungry? I noticed that you have not eaten any cookies. Me, I am just not that hungry, but thank you. Now, do you mind me asking you how old you are? Now, I don't mean to be rude, but I mean exactly how old you really are? Woman, smiling. How old do you think I look? Me, well, at certain times, you look around 30. However, at other times, you look more like around 60. Woman, laughing. Well, I am actually 80. However, since you asked me, now I must ask you exactly how old you are in return. I would bet that you are not 30. I became somewhat irritated by this as I had assumed that she was mocking me for not looking as young as she did. Since it was just the two of us here, I was also starting to become uncomfortable with the way our conversation was going. Me, well, I think it is pretty obvious that I am not 30. Woman, denial. Come on over here to this mirror. It seems to me that you are actually even younger than 30. Now I was really confused. Just as I approached the mirror to see what she was talking about, I suddenly woke up. Dream 1 description over. I ran out of time and decided to take a break for the day. However, in the early morning of the next day, I had yet another dream. Saturday, June 10, 2017, very early in the morning. Dream 2 description begins. My husband and I were at a department store that was now in liquidation. We were both sad about the closing of yet another iconic store. While we were not in the market for anything in particular, we still decided to take a look around. I was soon drawn to a display of odd glass storage boxes with handles. I had never seen anything quite like this. I somehow knew that not one of these boxes had sold despite the reasonable price of just $7 for two of them. The boxes were 6 high, 12 wide and 14 deep and had lids. I could see that they were also stackable, so I was a bit confused as to why none of them would have sold. Upon inspecting them closer, I quickly realized why they were still there. The clear glass was about an inch thick and this made them way too heavy. A man next to me chuckled. "Man, why would someone even buy such a thing? I certainly know that I would not want to have my junk exposed." Me. "While they are wonderfully made, they are just too heavy. Perhaps they are better suited for those who have the strength to move them and do not mind such exposure?" Before the man could reply, a clerk started shouting over the store's intercom system. Since the loudspeaker was directly over our heads, we could easily hear what the clerk was saying. "Clerk, attention! Attention! There is a storm coming. Please evacuate the store immediately. If we are still here tomorrow, please come back again." My husband reached for my hand and we walked over to a massive window that looked outside. While it had been sunny when we first arrived at the store, it was now completely dark outside. It was so dark outside that it looked more like midnight than the afternoon. My husband lifted up his watch for me to see the time. My husband, "Look, Aaron, it is only 3 p.m. Dream 2 description over. As soon as I woke up from this dream, I went to my devotional chair to pray. As I prayed, I suddenly heard God's voice tell me to pick up my journal and write down what He was about to tell me. I quickly reached for my journal and a pen and started to write. "God, Aaron, I am with you and you are not forgotten. I have not brought you this far to have you overcome with grief from the loss of your child. I will not let cancer overcome her. I do all things to bring glory to my power, not diminish it. I use difficulties to bring families together. Now, remember that, just as I use you as a measure of others, I also use your children as a measure of others. Do not let this discourage you. I will provide for all of your needs and I will heal your family, including all of your children. They, in turn, will bless others as directed by my command. Now, have your daughter press into me closely as I will soon do something miraculous with her. Those close to her, along with their families, will then be both in awe and wonder at who I really am. Me, Father, please do not make this too difficult on all of us. I am really struggling here, so please have mercy on us. Please heal us soon, Father, as we all love you so much. Even when I am busy during the day, I constantly think of you. Even while I sleep, you overcome my dreams. While I will still press into you no matter what, as I know that I have no place in this world without you, please, Father, please do not dishearten me. We are like a small ship in a storm tossed at the sea and we have no peace without you. God, Aaron, I love you and I am always with you. Now, have you still given your children to me or have you now taken them back? Me, oh Father, I have now taken them back. This is why my heart is so heavy and my yoke has now become unbearable again. Will I ever learn? I give you my children, your children, this very day. They have been your children since the very beginning, not mine. They are your children and are merely the crops from the field of my life. I have done all that I physically can and I now give you my crops. I am fully at your mercy to provide the sun and the rain. Father, Please forgive me for acting like God over them, as I am truly only capable of growing them by tending to their needs as best I can. Father, you alone are truly responsible for their lives, as they are your children. They are your children and their names are written on the palm of your hand. I was then given peace again and felt that I should go back to bed. While I was later busy for the rest of the Saturday after I awoke, I could hardly wait to go back to visit him again on Sunday morning. Sunday, June 11, 2017. Communion. Jesus, Aaron, come up. As I stood at the base of a mountain, I realized that this particular mountain was actually already quite familiar to me. As I looked around, there, in front of me, was a stamped dirt path and, to the right of me, was the forestry board. When I realized where I once again was, I instantly dropped to my knees and began to cry out in prayer. Me, O Father, am I now back to the beginning? Are you no longer calling me to your door? Have I dishonored you, Father? Are you upset with me? Am I no longer worthy for your call? Oh please, Father, still call my children, my family and my friends. Even though I thought that I had changed my ways, I see that I have now been taken back to this place again. Please help me, Father. My rant was suddenly interrupted when I heard a soft stomp on the ground. I looked up and saw a very muscular doe watching me. While this doe was somewhat remarkable, she was still unassuming and I really would not have given her that much extra notice if she had been standing alongside other deer even here on Earth. The doe then walked over to me and nudged my arm in such a way that she was now right next to me with my hand resting on her back. After being distracted by the doe, I looked back at the mountain and something had happened to it. The mountain had suddenly become much steeper than it had just been. As I studied the mountain closer, and right before my eyes, I saw rock ridges starting to jut out to form a series of very narrow shelves. I watched as this gentle mountain, complete with a dirt path and a tree-lined scenic route, turned into my worst nightmare. The deer nudged at me to start climbing the mountain. I was not overly happy at the prospect of doing so. This was certainly no longer going as expected. This is impossible for me. Lord, I cannot climb this mountain. I then heard the voice of God address me from above. God, Aaron, come up. Climb. I nervously realized that resisting him on this would be pointless. I started off by simply putting one of my hands up on the first rock shelf. When I hesitated, I heard the sound of the deer jumping. I looked over to see that she had just easily jumped up 7 feet to a ledge. She waited for me there as tears started to stream down my cheeks. Me, crying. Father, I am just not capable of this. You need to give me the ability to scale this mountain. Even though I am not afraid of heights while I am here with you in heaven, I still need your help to do this. I suddenly felt something like a charge go through each of my nerve endings, veins and muscles. When I then inspected my hands, they were now young and strong again. Tears continued to flow down my cheeks, but this time with joy at my change. The deer above me took her hoof and scraped the ledge to draw my attention. I watched her as she then easily jumped up to the next ridge. In contrast, I still had not even started my ascent and I was becoming discouraged with myself again. God, Aaron, I have now strengthened you. Come up the mountain. I looked down at my feet and noticed that I was now wearing a type of pliable sandal with a strong sole. I decided to go for it and jumped. To my surprise, I easily went up 7 feet to the first ledge. While I was quite happy at first, I soon became discouraged again when I noticed that each of the outcroppings was even trickier than the previous one. I then noticed that the deer was already on the third ledge and was waiting for me again. I did not know how any of this was even possible. Though the doe was quite strong, Her legs still looked as if they could easily break. As I gazed up at her in amazement, she used her hoof to scrape the ledge to encourage me to jump again. Me, laughing. Okay, now you are just showing off. She then easily leapt up to the next ledge. I decided to just go for it and followed her up. I leapt up from one impossible ledge to the next impossible ledge. Each ledge was even more difficult than the previous ledge, yet I was doing it. I started to become more and more confident with each of my leaps. A multitude of scriptures suddenly flooded my mind. They were analogies to my climb. Each scripture confirmed to me what God was doing with me here. When I finally reached the seventh ledge, I suddenly just froze and hung there. While I had watched the deer leap up to the eighth ledge safely and without effort, I had glanced away and now she had disappeared. I looked up for a ninth ledge thinking that she might have used this, but there were no more rock outcroppings. I somehow realized that she had now made it fully to the top. In contrast, here I was just hanging there by my fingertips on a 2-inch ledge. Foolishly, I decided to look down. You are never supposed to look down when climbing, and I instantly became dizzy. I looked back up and slowly regained my composure. I simply could not believe that I was able to scale a massive rock wall like this. It was like climbing the face of Yosemite's El Capitan, but without any ropes or safety gear. I realized that I would not be able to get momentum from where I was, so I looked around to see if anyone could help me. I shook my head at my predicament and realized that I simply could not go any further without God. I cried out to Him for help. Me, Father, help. Lord, are you up there? Hello, dear. Could you please call for help? I heard nothing in reply. Oh Father, was it my lack of faith that has caused all of this? Oh Lord, how I wish I was sitting at your table right now. As soon as I finished saying this, I saw a flash of light and was immediately with Jesus in His courtyard. While it took me a second to compose myself, I quickly leapt straight into His arms and hugged Him once I did. Me, oh, thank you for getting me. Jesus, well, Aaron, I am glad you came. I looked up at him as he smiled at me. His teeth were a beautiful white and his eyes were so kind and the most beautiful of blue-greens. His skin glowed and was simply flawless, just like him. Me, I am so sorry about the delay, Lord. I was hanging by a thread from a cliff and I just simply could not get here any sooner. Jesus, laughing. Well, Aaron, you could have been here sooner, but you made this much more difficult by hanging by a thread. Me, Lord, I am not sure what you mean. Jesus, let me start off by telling you that you are not back to the beginning. Instead, you are now at a new stage. Me, help me to understand this, Lord. Jesus, I am already instructing you while you sleep and you have been given knowledge of things impossible for a simple man. He laughed. Or a simple woman to understand. Now, you are not doing any of this by your own ability, but only from me. He smiled at me. So, Aaron, have you noticed this? Me, oh yes, Lord. On occasion, I have even been able to see the thoughts of evil people around me. I have also been able to see what is occurring around us, but also what is soon to come. However, I feel like I still only have just a portion of this and that I certainly do not have complete understanding. At times, and in my dreams, you have even taken me to foreign lands. One such land seemed like Panama and you showed me a plot to destroy the locks. There was also a separate plot in place to take over the government to try and control the shipping lanes. You have also showed me the rapid and worldwide spread of hate for anyone even remotely associated with you. You also showed me the ever-increasing intolerance for anyone who dares to voice an opinion against the religion of peace. Lord, it seems as if almost all of my dreams are now quite disturbing. Now, I know that you are with me always, but I can now even hear your voice clearly during those hours that I am fully awake, even when I am doing various chores. Jesus, laughing. Yes, Aaron, I am always with you. Now, I know that you are scared right now and that you are saddened by the rapid increase of evil. On certain days, you even try to dismiss what is happening and try to go back to how it was. Well, Aaron, there is no going back. You will be unable to go back to the old ways even though your heart sometimes longs for it. This time has now passed, but did so a few bridges back. Events are now accelerating even faster and you are unable to adjust to them. You are grieving me, Lord, I am. Forgive me, but I am. My heart is sickened by what has happened, what is happening and what will soon happen. The godless are letting in those that are even more godless than they are. They are working together to destroy your people. Lord, this breaks my heart and I can do nothing but pray. This all just seemed to happen so quickly. People only have to do a little research about this enemy to understand that they are actually fighting for the wrong side when they fight for this religion's freedom. Very few sources now report any of this with any accuracy. While your people still continue to infight amongst themselves, this enemy watches them and prepares for their opportunity to strike. They are going to strike soon, Lord, I just know it. I also see that the world is growing much colder now. I recently read of a mother killing her little infants simply because they had become an inconvenience. Oh Lord, why would she not just give them away? I am so troubled by this and my heart is breaking. Jesus, do not worry, Aaron, as this woman's children are already here with me. While it may seem that the wicked succeed in their evil, they are really only heaping further condemnation on themselves. While the wicked appear to be overcoming the land, do not worry, Aaron, as I have a plan that has been in place from the very beginning. Now, stories have been purposely changed, manuscripts and scrolls have been burned and record have been concealed. I tell you the truth, all will be exposed. There are massive storehouses here and all of history will have been recorded from start to finish. I have angels here in charge of these records and, by my command, this history cannot be rewritten or changed. The enemy knows that he cannot change what is stored here in heaven, so he attacks that which is stored on earth instead. Now, many have been sent by the enemy over time and in various capacities and all have been inspired by the ruler of this world. However, I am still the ruler over him and have always been. This enemy has never stopped with his wicked schemes. He confuses times, seasons, cycles and even the stars. He sent man knowledge of theories meant to remove the power of God from the minds of men and women. He elevated man in light of their own authority and raised up whole movements against my word and my authority as your Savior. He even influences the elect, both those in power by the people, as well as some who called themselves apostles sent by me. Well, these apostles sent by me were not all sent by me. Now, the open door or gateway to all of this was and is jealousy. The enemy is jealous of me and of you, but also of anyone else that has been appointed by me to spread the good news. Hate, coveting and all manner of evil is then used to attempt to destroy those that God calls his friends. The enemy especially hates, but with even greater intensity, anyone I have chosen to use as my vessel. You have been given knowledge of this over time and strengthened so that you are prepared in advance for what I have planned for you. However, do not think, even for a moment, that I will ever abandon you to the grave with no hope. Me, Lord, the scriptures speak of the days of Noah. What does this really mean? Jesus, good question. You only have to see what had been happening at the time of the flood to see the patterns. It was business as usual and men and women were living normally, but they had also grown cold. What is sinful to God had now become accepted and common practice amongst men. Aaron, you are witnessing this happening once again. All sin begins and then escalates with self. This includes self-gratification, self-appeasement, self-love and self-reliance, but the list goes on and on. The enemy has given man many false ideas of self. Do everything apart from God. Lie for today. Do what feels good. Indulge. Have no fear of God as He does not even exist. You are your own God. You are the master of your own destiny. These are the things that a world apart from God now believes. As these men continue to enjoy their indulgences, the sons of Moloch walk amongst them, watching and plotting. They will then be overcome by them and are too foolish to see this coming until it is too late. Now, but also throughout the generations, I have sent out waves of my chosen to call and shout to those who search for me. For those who come to me, I then instruct them in the way that they should go. While they are then called my righteous and redeemed, woe to those who practice all types of evil instead, for theirs is not the kingdom of heaven. But, Lord, how can anyone remain apart from the wicked today? It seems as if they are now everywhere and in everything. Even though I do not fall for their schemes as often as I once did, the enemy is very clever. I am not sure if it is because I am wiser or if it is just because I am more diligent in listening to you before moving. Jesus, laughing. Aaron, right now, you are like my scepter to me, so just let me use you. This is a time like no other time and yet still like the days of Noah. I think I understand the concept of the days of Noah. The people were enjoying their lives apart from God and mocked Noah until the day that the flood came and the door shut. However, it is also unlike those days, as this is a different period in history. Though a flood of water is not to cover the earth, the lands are still being flooded by those appointed by the enemy. These people are like locusts and are being sent to pillage, strip and destroy the land, along with its people. Very few people see this coming. While these people hate you, Lord, they also hate us because of you. My worry is not being able to perform the signs and wonders that those who were with the disciples at Pentecost could. It seems as if we will soon be destroyed if we are not given these abilities to display your awesome power, especially if you do not at least strengthen us. Please, Lord, help us. We need your help more now than ever. Jesus, smiling. Do not worry, Aaron, as I have plans for you. You will be amazed and I will instruct you. Even though you see yourself as unlikely for all of this, I see things differently than you do. While the enemy loves to torment you, you will be unexpected to him for any of this, as he does not see what I see. While I do not expect perfection from you, I do expect a willingness to surrender all to me. While you have given me your heart fully, many are unable to do this. I am therefore unable to use them for my purposes, as they love their lives more than me. Lord, summer is almost here again and it is going to be very hot. Please keep our home cool. Please protect your people and strengthen us. Please do all that you have promised to with us. If you do nothing with us, we will become disheartened and will surely soon perish. As the seeds of compromise are the gateway to sin, a little sin soon leads to even greater degrees of sin. All around us, sin is not only acceptable, but it is now even cheered on. Jesus, yes, Aaron, the days of Noah are upon you now and the people are asleep, blind and unaware. The whole earth is now corrupt before me and filled with violence. These people are apart from the laws and commandments of my Father and me. Always remember my commandments. The first and greatest commandment is to love the Lord, your God, with all of your heart, soul and mind. The second great commandment is to love your neighbor as yourself. Aaron, the progression of sin starts with a cold heart. The love of God and His commandments disappears first, and then the loss of love for each other quickly follows. There is now a different kind of flood already upon the land. When this evil rises like flood waters, people will cry out to you, even as many of them still continue to mock and hate you at the same time. However, I will send angels concerning you to protect you in all of your ways. You will be the last wave that I send out amongst the nations. This will be the last wave of God's love. I will pour this out from my vessels. You and my other friends will be my vessels. You will give birth after great travail. This has been a sign from the beginning and will be of no surprise to those who have been waiting for this. Once you are soon changed, and in an instant, the enemy will then send out a wave of counterfeits in response. While these counterfeits will be quite clever, you will be able to see them as they are, as I will show you this and will remove their trouble from you. For those I call, I will also save, so do not worry. Angels will be sent concerning you. All of my friends will soon be strengthened. This includes you, your household and your children, but also your faithful friends. You will only have to ask and my door shall be open to you. Do not worry or be afraid. I have you and I love you. I reached over and hugged him tightly. I felt his love surround me, but in a way that is simply indescribable in an earthly sense. Oh, if only everyone knew of this love, his love. If they did, surely no one would reject him again, as he truly is the Prince of Peace. Me, I love you so much, Lord. Thank you for everything. Please heal us soon, Lord, and please heal my daughter. Jesus, smiling. I have not forgotten you, Aaron, and I will soon heal you and your household. I have promised you that I would do this. Now, I have something very special planned for you and I will instruct you in all that you do. Do not worry or be afraid, as I will provide for you and will send gifts to you. I will continue to bless you in all that you do. Dream over.